My name is Karyn Calabrese, and I wear many hats. I'm a nutritionist, I own a raw food restaurant, and I own a health spa. And I have a wheatgrass and sprout company. And I lecture all over the country, and I've written a book. Well, I think that there are so many theories out there. There's so many applications of living well, that people can choose from. And my basic tenet that I think that I like to get out is that it's wonderful to have a concept of how you must do something, but it's almost impossible to do. This is why most people can't follow particular diets, so to speak, because if that worked, then everybody would be thin and healthy, or everybody would be a raw foodist. What I believe is that we have to detox and cleanse our bodies minimum 4 times a year. We can't just go from here forward. I'm a raw foodist and this is it. I'm going to be healthy from here on out. I think that you have to clean up everything that you did from all the years before. I know a lot of people that are vegetarians, vegans, and raw foodists that don't necessarily look the picture of health, even though they are adhering to a very strict diet. So for me, what I've seen over the years and what I've done for myself is detoxing and cleansing. And even though I eat probably as close to perfect of anybody I know, I still detox and cleanse my body a couple of times a year because I have no control over the air I breathe. I'd like to say everything I do is 100% organic, but it's not. And guess what? I do have some stress in my life, So the food aspect is only one piece of the pie, actually. And I think detoxing and cleansing your body, what that does is it makes it a joyful journey because you don't have to say, oh, I'm never going to eat this again, because our bodies intuitively want to survive. When you start breaking down those layers of the old stuff that are influencing us, your body intuitively leads you to where it's supposed to go, where it's ready to go next, and then it becomes a joyful journey, not, oh, I wish I could have this, or I'm missing this, that, and the other. And I've worked with thousands of people over the years, and it tends to be more lasting, than getting the brain concept, I'm going to be a raw foodist, and maybe you're able to maintain that for 6 months, 4 years, whatever, and then eventually you revert back because these tapes are still in there craving. So that's what my book's about. It's about detoxing and cleansing out the body so that your body will lead you to where you're ready to go next. Now, if you have a very strong health challenge, you don't have this luxury. You have to kind of just jump right in and do it. I do realize that. But I think my book is more for the general public, people who are just looking to make changes. And I think I found a very gentle way to do it, so you can be happy and joyful every day, no matter what you're eating and doing. Well, for me, it's eating food as close to how God intended us to eat it. Initially, cooked foods are very addictive, so most of us are used to cooked foods. From birth, they start us, eating the jars of baby food and whatever. Raw, living foods are foods as close to the state which God created us to eat it. He created this machine that we call our bodies, and He created the fuel to feed the machine. So most of the fuel that we use to feed our bodies has nothing to do with what's supposed to go in there. And cooked food, even vegetarian cooked food, uses up the machine very quickly. So raw foods are foods as close to how as God created. Living foods, in my opinion, are foods that generally have been fermented. They have living bacteria in them. So they help the enzymatic action in our bodies. They come alive. They help our bodies come alive. Well, we are living beings. We have living cells. Our cells regenerate every 7 years, our tissue every 3 months. We are alive, so we need living foods to stay alive. It's very simple. Dead foods, you die sooner. Living foods, you live longer. It's very basic. I think to an extent, I'm a walking example of what living foods can do to you. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture here to show you of when I was 25. But I actually look more youthful and more alive at 53 than I did at 25. I'm 53 years old. I sleep approximately 3.5 hours a night. I haven't been sick in 27 years. I'm a dancer. I dance with girls 12, 16, 18 years old, ballet, advanced ballet classes. I run 5 businesses. And I attribute it all to living foods. My genetic makeup has nothing to do with it. You know, people always go, oh, she's got a great gene pool. No, 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 no. My mother died at 46, my grandmother at 50, and my great-grandmother at 60, and they all died overweight and from degenerative diseases. So for me, the living foods are the reason that I'm alive today. You know, being 53, if I were to go with my genetic makeup, I should be gone by now. I think, once again, I mean, it's a very simple concept. Living beings, living body, living foods. You know, you literally come alive. The thousands of people I've worked with over the years, people say, oh my goodness, you know, all of a sudden, now that I have these, people are attracted to you, that you're almost like a magnet, because this life force from the foods, you come alive internally. You know, it's kind of like your light turns on and shines, and people don't really know what it is, but they're attracted to you, they're drawn to you, because we all intuitively know that it's there. I mean, it's a God-given thing. We've just forgotten. It's been clouded over with all the dead food and the chemicals and the air and the thought process. It's all clouded over. But once you start to detox your body and bring these living foods, most people don't have a clue as to what health is all about. Most of the people that come to me feel that health is the absence of diagnosed disease. Then you're healthy, you know? Since I've been on living foods, I don't know what depression is. And I certainly have stresses in my life. I own a restaurant, you know, stress right there. It's a joyful journey. Every day that I wake, life is so joyful, and I attribute that to my food choices and detoxing my body, because I know a lot of people that are raw foodists that don't exactly feel that happiness at all times, and it's because you still have those old tapes, those old things playing around, mixing with the new. Oprah was an extremely gracious lady. It was a lot of fun being on her show. They treat the guest very well. I was initially a little disappointed when I saw the actual airing of the show, because the Oprah show could do so much for our movement and for my business, and they had cut out a lot of key things. But then I realized that I wasn't ready for 12,000 people from the Oprah show. You know, she has such a wide audience to show up at my doorstep. And I believe that because she has, what is it, something like 48 million people watch her show, and the very fact that raw foods was mentioned on Oprah's show, I think is a huge, I think it's a huge step for the movement. I think it started a lot of people to think about it, or at least question and want to find out more about it, to, you know, find out about different people's books. I think it was a good thing for all of us. The people interested in the movement in Chicago, and I actually have clients around the country. The people that I attract are more mainstream. And I think a lot has to do with my age. You know, I'm a baby boomer. I'm postmenopausal with absolutely no symptoms whatsoever. I'm a grandmother. I have adult children. I have a 30-year-old son. So I'm attracting a lot of, and most of these people in this age group are pretty well settled into their careers. So I have doctors, lawyers, judges. My class about 6 months ago, I had 4 judges, local judges in the class. It's varied, but I think the baby boomers, my generation particularly, are interested in the youthing aspect of it and the healing aspect of it. I don't know if they're so involved with the healing of the planet yet. That may come along. But a lot of people in my age group are very interested. I went to 3 funerals last week, you know, people in my age group. So I think we have a very strong baby boomer following. You know, I have people from all walks of life. You know, people come and take my classes that have been vegetarians for 10, 12 years. People come and take my detox classes that have been raw foodists for several years. Very wide spectrum. I think the people coming to the raw food movement, it's across the board, ethnically, economically, religion, from people from all walks of life. If you were to look at one of my classes, and we're actually filming the next class, it's a little microcosm of the world. There's everybody. I have Chinese, rich, poor, black, Hispanic. You know what? I have 3 young Hispanic people that work for me. One kid was a little gangbanger. All 3 of them are taking the next class. You know, they're 17 years old. I mean, it's from all walks of life, all age groups. I think it resonates because it's a God thing. I think that we all intuitively know the right direction to go in. We just don't know how to get there. Or maybe it hasn't, the seed has been planted and it hasn't come forward yet. And it really resonates for everyone. But they're just, so it's coming through from everybody, all walks of life. Absolutely. I've been consuming living foods a little over 20 years. There were a few years in there that I went backwards or took a few steps backwards, and where I was maybe 98%, or maybe, you know, once I even think I went back to like about 90%. But for the most part, I've been 100%. And I will say that is a night and day difference between being 99% and 100. It's as big a difference as going from being a meat eater to being a vegan in how you feel. That one little bit. But, you know, that was my process. That's what I needed to do, and it was just part of my joyful journey. So I say I've been a raw foodist for a little over 20 years now. The beautiful thing about being a raw foodist, when I reached my 50s and my cycle stopped, that's all that happened. I mean, I had no hot flashes. My skin didn't change in the least. It still feels like it did when I was 16 years old. My libido didn't change. Absolutely nothing changed. And I believe that that's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to segue into each passage of life. I don't believe that God intended for us to live this way, and then when we reach a certain age, we need to become pharmaceutical to maintain ourselves. Even herbs, you know, that's still a form of pharmaceutical, and that's fine, and I would rather see people do herbs than go through chemicals, but I actually believe that we're supposed to just segue right into the different passages of our lives without these huge jumps in how we feel and how we look. In terms of my cycle, when I was, before I went through menopause, it was the most amazing thing in the world. Many years ago, I used to have the traditional PMS, you know, and I would be laid up in the bed for a couple of weeks, and, you know, or moody and witchy and, you know, all the other things that went along with it. As I detoxed and cleansed my body, that all left. And the last 10, 15 years before I went through menopause, I never even knew that it was happening, that I was getting my cycle. There was absolutely no reason to know that except that I would get stronger. I would usually get stronger during my cycle as opposed to getting weaker. I think that people coming to the living food movement, they will regain their intuitive knowledge about themselves. I feel that the best thing that I have to offer any of my students or clients is that they walk away feeling empowered, so that they can come from their own heart space and they don't need me or anyone else. You know, I've been detoxing and cleansing and a raw foodist for the past 20 years. I've actually been a vegan for 30 years. So I was a non-meat eater before I came to the raw food movement for many years prior to that. But what I feel the living foods movement has, well, when my cycle first stopped, initially it was a little, mentally it made me feel very uncomfortable, because I think the living food movement gives us control. It gives us, you know, or at least a feeling of control. And I think when it stopped, I felt a little bit out of control, like, oh my goodness, this happened. You know, why did this happen? So that there are some inevitabilities that I wasn't quite ready to deal with or face. I didn't realize things would still happen. But once it happened and it was done, that lasted for about a minute, you know. That's the beauty of living foods. It's hard to stay focused on any negative aspect for any length of time. So for about a minute, I was a little uncomfortable, feeling that there were some aspects about myself that I had no control over. But after that, it was just another joyful part of the passages of being alive.